We were sitting on the couch until I noticed he kept turning his phone away from me. "Who are you texting?" I asked. "Work," he said too fast. So I tested him with a fake account. And he replied instantly. What he started telling her wasn't meant for his wife. Because the truth was, it didn't feel like a big moment at the time. That's the part that bothers me now. There wasn't some loud argument or obvious betrayal. It was quiet, subtle, the kind of thing you could easily ignore if you wanted to. But I didn't ignore it. We were in our apartment in Denver, the same place we'd been living in for the past 3 years. Nothing fancy. Just enough space for the two of us, a couch that had started to sag in the middle, and a kitchen that always smelled faintly like coffee no matter how much I cleaned. I had my laptop open, pretending to plan meals for the week, but really I was just clicking through things without paying attention. Brian was next to me, leaning forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees, his phone in his hands. That angle, that slight turn of his shoulders. It was small, but it was new. Brian had never been protective of his phone before. If anything, he used to forget it everywhere. I'd find it on the kitchen counter, in the bathroom, even once in the laundry basket. He never cared. There was nothing on it that needed hiding. Now it was always with him. Always face down when he set it on the table. Always in his pocket when he walked out of the room. Even when he got up to grab water, it went with him. At first, I told myself it was work. He had more responsibilities now. More late calls. More pressure. Being a manager meant he was constantly dealing with people, problems, deadlines. That's what I told myself. Until the little things started stacking up. He'd smile at his phone but not say anything. He'd type fast, then pause, like he was thinking carefully about what to say next. He'd get notifications late at night and angle the screen away before checking them. It wasn't dramatic. That's the problem. If it had been obvious, I think I would have confronted him right away. Instead, I just watched. One night, I finally said something. I kept my voice light, like it was a joke. "Who are you texting that's more interesting than me?" He didn't even look up right away. Just shrugged and said, "Work stuff." "You wouldn't care." That answer sat wrong in my chest. Not because of what he said, but how he said it. Too quick. Too dismissive. Like he wanted the conversation over before it even started. I laughed it off. I think I even said something like, "Wow, rude," just to keep it casual. But I didn't forget it. That was the beginning. After that, I started noticing everything. How he'd tilt his phone just slightly when I got closer. How he'd clear notifications faster than usual. How he'd stay up later than me some nights, the glow of his screen lighting up his face in the dark. And the thing is, I didn't actually think he was physically cheating. That sounds ridiculous now, but it's true. Brian wasn't that kind of guy. Or at least, I didn't think he was. We didn't have a toxic relationship. We didn't fight constantly. There wasn't some obvious reason for him to go behind my back. If anything, we were stable. And maybe that was the problem. We had fallen into routines without even noticing it. Conversations that used to mean something turned into checklists. "Did you pay the electricity bill? What do you want for dinner? I'm tired." We still cared about each other. I never doubted that. But somewhere along the way, the energy shifted. Less curiosity. Less effort. Less connection. I thought that was just what happened after a few years of marriage. Apparently, he didn't. I didn't decide to make the fake account right away. I wish I could say I fought the idea longer, but the truth is it came to me faster than I want to admit. It was late. Past midnight. Brian had already fallen asleep next to me, his breathing slow and even. His phone was on the nightstand, face down like always. I was staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The way he smiled at his phone. The way he said you wouldn't care. The way I suddenly felt like I was on the outside of my own marriage. I picked up my phone. At first, I told myself I was just going to check something. Social media, emails, anything to distract myself. Instead, I opened a new account. It felt stupid. Even while I was doing it, part of me knew how messed up it was. But another part of me needed to know. If there was nothing going on, this would prove it. That's what I told myself. I chose the name Ashley White. Something simple. Common. Nothing that would stand out. I picked a profile picture that looked normal. Friendly. The kind of person you wouldn't think twice about. Then I found Brian's account. My heart was beating so fast it felt ridiculous. Like I was doing something illegal instead of just messaging my own husband. I hesitated. There was still time to stop. Close the app. Delete the account. Pretend I never had this thought. Instead, I hit follow. He accepted almost immediately. I stared at the screen for a second, trying to process how fast that happened. Maybe he was just online. Maybe it didn't mean anything. Still, it didn't feel good. I told myself I'd keep it light. No flirting. No pushing. Just enough to see how he responded. I reacted to one of his posts. Something small. Then I sent a message. "Hey, random question. Do we have a mutual friend? You look familiar." I kept it casual. Harmless. He replied. Right away. "Maybe. Where are you from?" That was it. Simple. Normal. I told myself again, this doesn't mean anything. People talk online all the time. But then the conversation kept going. He asked questions. Real questions. Not just polite responses. He seemed interested. And that's when something shifted. Because I realized I hadn't felt that kind of interest from him in a long time. Not like that. Not curious. Not engaged. Not present. With me, everything had become routine. With her, this fake version of me, it was different. And I felt it immediately. I should have stopped there. I didn't. I told myself I just needed to see a little more. Just enough to understand what was going on. But deep down, I think I already knew this wasn't going to end clean. I told myself I was still in control. That this was just information. Just observation. Just a way to confirm what I already suspected, or, if I was wrong, to finally shut my brain up and move on. But that stopped being true faster than I expected. The next morning, I woke up before Brian did. He was still asleep next to me, one arm stretched across the bed, his face relaxed in that way it only is when he's completely unaware of anything around him. His phone was on the nightstand again. Face down. Mine was already in my hand. There was a new message. From him. My stomach dropped. Morning. Hope I didn't keep you up too late, lol. I just stared at it for a second. Because that's not how he texted me anymore. With me, it was, did you leave already? Or, can you grab milk on your way home? Short. Functional. Empty. But this? This was light. Easy. Careful. Like he was thinking about how he sounded. I didn't answer right away. I got out of bed, went into the kitchen, made coffee like I always did. The normal routine. The same movements. The same quiet apartment. Except now there was this second version of my life sitting in my hand. I replied. Not at all. I stayed up later than I should have anyway. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. He was still in bed. Right next to me. And texting her. Same. I probably should have slept earlier. Work's gonna be rough. I glanced toward the bedroom. He hadn't moved. That's when it hit me in a way that made my chest tighten. He woke up and chose to message her first. Not me. I didn't even realize how much that mattered until that moment. The conversation stayed simple at first. Work. Coffee. Random little things. Nothing that would set off alarms if you read it out loud. But the tone was different. He asked questions. Follow-ups. He actually listened. At one point he said, "What do you do for work?" I hesitated before answering. I couldn't say analyst. That would be too close. Too real. So I kept it vague. Office stuff. Pretty boring, honestly. He replied, boring can be good. Less stress. I almost laughed. Because he never said things like that to me. Not anymore. Later that day, I texted him as myself. Hey, do you know if you're gonna be home early tonight? His reply took almost an hour. Not sure. Busy day. Meanwhile, Ashley got responses in minutes. I wish I could say that's when I stopped. I didn't. If anything, that's when I leaned in harder. That night, we sat at the dinner table together. Same as always. Same routine. Same quiet between sentences. How was work? I asked. Fine. Busy, he said, not looking up from his food. I nodded, like that was enough. But inside, I was thinking you had time to joke with her. You had time to ask her questions. You had time to be that version of yourself. Just not with me. After dinner, he went to the couch. Phone in hand. Same position as the night before. I sat next to him. And I messaged him. Long day. He replied almost instantly. Yeah, you. I watched his thumbs move while I held my own phone. It felt unreal. 2 conversations. Same man. Same moment. One version of him was sitting next to me, quiet, distracted, barely present. The other version was engaged. Attentive. Warm. And he didn't even realize they were both me. That's when it stopped feeling like a test. And started feeling like something else. Something heavier. Over the next few days, it became a pattern. He'd message Ashley first. Check in. Send random thoughts. Even little jokes. With me, everything stayed the same. Routine. Predictable. Safe. Empty. One night, I decided to push it a little further. Nothing obvious. Just more personal. I asked him, do you ever feel like you're stuck? Like you're just going through the motions. There was a pause. Longer than usual. Then he replied, yeah, more than I probably should admit. My chest tightened. Because he had never said anything like that to me. Not once. I typed carefully. Why do you think that is? Another pause. Then. I don't know. I guess things just get repetitive. I looked up from my phone. He was sitting right there. Scrolling. Completely unaware that he was answering a question I had been silently asking for months. I swallowed and kept going. Like your relationship? The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Came back. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Then his message came through. My wife is great. Seriously. No complaints. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. But then the next message came. But sometimes it feels like we're just roommates. It felt like the air got knocked out of me. I read it again. And again. Because from my side, I thought we were okay. Not perfect. But okay. Stable. Apparently, to him, stable felt like empty. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. Because I was sitting across from him, in the same apartment, living the same life, and hearing for the first time how he actually felt. Just not as his wife. As someone else. And I realized something in that moment that I couldn't unsee. He wasn't opening up to me. He was opening up to the idea of someone new. Someone easier. Someone who didn't come with history, routines, expectations. Someone who didn't feel like real life. And I was the one who created her. I should have ended it right there. Closed the account. Told him the truth. Forced a real conversation. Instead, I asked another question. And that's when everything started going too far. I wish I could say I stopped after that. That hearing him call our marriage roommate-like was enough to snap me out of whatever I was doing. It wasn't. If anything, that message hooked me deeper. Because now it wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. He felt something missing. He just never told me. So I kept going. I told myself I needed to understand it. That if I could just get him to explain how he felt, maybe I could fix it. Maybe I could bring that version of him back into our actual relationship. That's what I told myself. But the truth is, part of me wanted to see how far he'd go. That night, I stayed up later than usual. Brian had already gone to bed, but I could hear him moving around, the sound of drawers opening and closing, the quiet rhythm of him getting ready for sleep. Meanwhile, I was on the couch, staring at my phone. I typed slowly. Do you think it's something you can fix? Or is it just how things are now? The message sat there for a minute. 2. 3. Then his reply came through. I don't know. I think it's just what happens after a while. I felt that one settle heavy in my chest. Because that's exactly what I believe too. That long-term relationships just flatten out. Less excitement. Less curiosity. Less effort. You trade intensity for stability. And maybe that's normal. But reading it from him, seeing him accept it like that, it felt different. I pushed a little further. Do you miss how it used to feel? This time he replied faster. Yeah, just that. Yeah, it was simple, but it hit harder than anything else he had said. Because there was no hesitation in it. No overthinking. Just honesty. I looked toward the bedroom. The door was slightly open. I could see the edge of the bed, the faint outline of him lying there. And I thought, you're right there. You could tell me this. You could say it out loud. You could let me in. But he didn't. Instead, he told her. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing again. Then why don't you talk to her about it? There was a pause. Longer than before. Then, I've tried. It just feels like we're on different wavelengths now. That made my stomach twist. Because from my side, it never felt like he tried. Not really. We had conversations, sure. But not like this. Not open. Not vulnerable. Nothing that cut this deep. I typed back, slower this time. Maybe she feels the same way. Another pause. Then, maybe. I don't know. It's just easier talking to you. I had to put my phone down for a second. Because that line hit somewhere I wasn't ready for. It was exactly what I used to be for him. Easy. Comfortable. Safe. And somehow, over time, I stopped being that. Or maybe he stopped seeing me that way. I picked my phone back up. Why is it easier? He didn't hesitate. No expectations. No pressure. I can just say what I'm thinking. That was it. That was the difference. With me, there was history. Shared bills. Responsibilities. The weight of years together. With her, there was none of that. Just conversation. Just curiosity. Just possibility. And the worst part? I understood it. I hated it, but I understood it. That's what made it so much harder to walk away. Over the next few days, things escalated without me even realizing it. The conversations got longer. More personal. He started opening up about work in more detail. About stress, about feeling like he was constantly trying to meet expectations, about how tired he was of always having to be on. Things I had asked him about before. Things he brushed off. But here with her, he talked. Actually talked. One night, he said, I don't even know why I'm telling you all this. I stared at that message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then he sent another one. You're just easy to talk to. I closed my eyes. Because I knew that line. He had said it to me before. Years ago. Back when everything felt lighter. Back when we stayed up too late just talking about nothing and everything at the same time. Back when I didn't have to question whether he was hiding parts of himself from me. I typed back. I'm glad you feel that way. And I meant it. Which made it worse. Because I wasn't just pretending anymore. I was feeling it too. That connection. That version of him. And it was coming from something that wasn't real. Or at least, wasn't supposed to be. That's when the guilt started mixing in with everything else. Because this wasn't just about him anymore. I was lying too. I was creating a version of myself that didn't exist in our real life. A version without stress, without routine, without history. A version that was easier to love. And he was falling for it. Even if he didn't realize it yet. I kept telling myself I'd stop. After one more conversation. After one more answer. After I understood just a little bit more. But every time I got closer to stopping, he'd say something that pulled me right back in. And I let it happen. Because part of me needed to see where it would lead. Even if I already knew it wasn't going anywhere good. I just didn't realize how far it was about to go. I knew it had gone too far the moment I started waiting for his messages. Not as his wife. As her. That's when it stopped being something I was controlling and started becoming something I was part of. It was subtle at first. Just checking my phone more often. Noticing the time. Wondering when he'd text. But then it turned into something else. Anticipation. And that's the part one hate admitting. Because I wasn't just watching him anymore. I was in it with him. One night, he came home later than usual. Said there was a last-minute issue at work. I didn't question it. I didn't have the energy to pretend I believed it or didn't. We ate dinner like always. Quiet. Routine. Predictable. How was your day? I asked. Busy, he said, not looking up. That word again. Busy. It had become his shield for everything. After dinner, he went to the couch. Phone already in his hand before he even sat down. I stayed in the kitchen longer than I needed to. Just standing there. Staring at nothing, my thoughts louder than the silence around me. Then my phone buzzed. From him. From Brian. Long day. I let out a breath that almost felt like a laugh. He was sitting 10 feet away from me. 10 feet. And choosing to talk to her. I walked into the living room, sat down next to him, and opened the message. Yeah, just tired. I watched his fingers move. Same. Feels like it never stops lately. I glanced at him. Same expression. Same posture. No sign that anything about this felt strange to him. I typed again. What do you do to deal with it? He didn't answer right away. For a second, I thought maybe he was thinking. Or maybe he was hesitating. Then, honestly, talking like this helps. I swallowed hard. Because he wasn't talking like this with me. Not anymore. The room felt smaller suddenly. Like the walls were closing in around the two versions of us sitting there. I stayed quiet as myself. But I kept talking as her. Over the next few days, everything blurred together. Work. Home. Conversations. Messages. Two versions of my life running at the same time. And he kept choosing her. Not in some dramatic, obvious way. But in small, consistent choices. Replying faster. Asking more questions. Staying engaged longer. One night, it shifted again. We had gone to bed around the same time. He fell asleep quickly like he always did, while I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. My phone lit up. Are you still up? I didn't answer immediately. I just watched the message sit there. Then I replied. Yeah. His response came almost instantly. Can I ask you something? My chest tightened. Sure. There was a pause. Long enough that I started overthinking it. Then, do you ever think about what it would be like to start over? I sat up slightly, the room suddenly feeling too quiet. What do you mean? Another pause. Then, like, if you met someone at a different point in your life. No baggage. No history. Just something new. I stared at the words. Because I knew exactly what he meant. And I knew exactly where this was going. I typed slowly. Yeah, I think everyone wonders about that sometimes. 3 dots. Gone. Back again. Then, I feel like I'd be a different version of myself. That line stuck with me. Because I had already seen that version. He was being it. Right now. Just not with me. I asked, different how? He replied almost immediately this time. More open. Less stuck, I guess. I felt something heavy settle in my chest. Because from my side, I didn't feel stuck. I felt comfortable. Safe. But to him, those things had turned into something else. Something suffocating. The next message came before I could respond. I don't think I'd mess it up the same way. That made my heart drop. Mess what up? I asked. He didn't answer right away. And for the first time in all of this, I hesitated. Because I knew this was the line. The point where things stopped being just emotional venting. And turned into something that couldn't be taken back. My phone buzzed again. I think I'd choose differently. I closed my eyes for a second. Because I knew what he was saying without him having to spell it out. And I should have ended it right there. I should have told him the truth. I should have shut it down before it crossed that line. Instead, I replied, what do you mean by that? The response came slower this time. Like he was thinking. Like he knew this mattered. Then, I think I would have fallen for you if we met in real life. Everything went quiet. The room. My thoughts. Even my breathing. It felt like everything just stopped. I read the message again. And again. Because it didn't feel real. He was 10 feet away from me. In the same bed. In the same life we had built together. And he was telling another version of me that he would choose her instead. I didn't respond right away. My hands were shaking too much to type. I looked over at him. Still asleep. Completely unaware of what he had just said. Of what he had just done. And for the first time since this started, I felt like I had lost control of everything. Because this wasn't a test anymore. This wasn't curiosity. This was betrayal. Even if it didn't look like the kind people usually talk about. And the worst part? I had helped create it. I stared at my phone for a long time before typing anything back. Because I knew, whatever I said next was going to decide what happened from here. And instead of ending it, I kept going. I stared at that message longer than I want to admit. I think I would have fallen for you if we met in real life. It just sat there on my screen, glowing in the dark, like something I wasn't supposed to see. My first instinct was to throw my phone across the room. My second was to wake him up. But I didn't do either. I just stayed there, frozen. Because there was a part of me that wasn't just hurt. It was curious. And I hate that. I hate that even after everything, I still wanted to know what he would say next. So I typed back. Slowly. Carefully. That's a big thing to say. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. I know. Another pause. Then. I shouldn't have said that. But he didn't take it back. That's what stuck with me. He acknowledged it, but he didn't undo it. I asked, then why did you? There was a longer pause this time. Long enough that I thought maybe he'd stop. Maybe he'd realize what he was doing. Maybe this would finally end. Then my phone buzzed. Because it's true. I felt something in my chest crack a little. Because he wasn't confused. He wasn't caught up in the moment. He meant it. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling everything at once. Anger. Hurt. Confusion. And something worse. Understanding. Because I had seen that version of him. The one who stayed up late talking. The one who asked questions. The one who listened. The one who felt easy again. And he was right. If I had met that version of him now, without everything we had built, I probably would have fallen for him too. That thought made me feel sick. Because it meant this wasn't just about him changing. It was about both of us losing something along the way. I finally typed back. You're married. Simple. Direct. Real. The 3 dots came back. Paused. Then. I know. That was it. No excuse. No denial. Just acknowledgement. And somehow, that made it worse. Because he knew exactly what he was doing. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I asked the question I had been avoiding. What do you want? This time, the pause felt different. He wasn't just thinking. He was choosing. Then. I don't know. I almost laughed. Because of course he didn't. He wanted both. The comfort of his real life. And the excitement of something new. And I had given him both. I typed again. Then why are you still talking to me? That one took longer. Much longer. When his reply finally came, it was shorter than I expected. Because I don't want to stop. That was it. No explanation. No justification. Just a choice. And that's when something inside me shifted. Because up until that point, I had been reacting. Watching. Following where he led. But now I saw it clearly. He wasn't confused. He wasn't lost. He was making decisions. Every message. Every reply. Every moment he chose to talk to her instead of me. It was all a choice. And I had been letting it happen. I put my phone down. Looked over at him. Still asleep. Still unaware. And I realized something that hit harder than anything else so far. If I didn't stop this, he wouldn't. That thought sat heavy in my chest. Because it meant the responsibility wasn't just on him anymore. It was on me too. I had created this. I had fed it. I had allowed it to grow into something real. And now I had to decide what to do with it. I didn't sleep much that night. I just kept replaying everything in my head. Every message. Every moment. Every version of him I had seen over the past few weeks. And by morning I knew what I had to do. Not because I felt strong. But because I couldn't carry it anymore. That evening, when he got home from work, everything felt normal. Too normal. He walked in, dropped his keys on the counter, gave me a quick hey, like he always did. I watched him for a second, trying to reconcile the man standing in front of me with the one who had said those things the night before. Hey, I said back. My voice sounded steady. Calm. Like nothing was wrong. We went through the usual routine. Dinner. Small talk. Silence. And the whole time, I felt this pressure building in my chest. Like if I didn't say something soon, I was going to break. After dinner, he went to the living room. Phone already in his hand. Of course. I followed him. Sat down across from him this time, not next to him. He glanced up for a second. What's up? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. Really looked at him. And then I said it. Are you talking to someone online? Everything stopped. His expression froze. Not confused. Not surprised. Just caught. It was so subtle, but I saw it. That tiny shift. That tiny pause. And it told me everything. It's not what you think, he said. Of course. It's never what you think. I nodded slowly. Then what is it? He ran a hand through his hair, looked down at his phone, then back at me. It's just talking. Nothing serious. I felt something twist inside me, because I knew exactly what those conversations looked like. I knew how far they had gone. I've seen it, I said. That made him go still again. What do you mean? I held his gaze. I know. I didn't tell him how. Not yet. I wanted to hear it from him. He exhaled slowly, looked away, then back at me. It didn't mean for it to go that far, he said quietly. I was just talking. It felt easy. Easy. That word again. I was just venting, he added. I didn't realize how disconnected I felt until. He trailed off. Until someone actually listened? I finished. He nodded. And that was the moment. The one where everything lined up. Everything I had read. Everything I had felt. Everything I had suspected. It was all there. Right in front of me. And I could have stopped there. I could have left it at that. But I didn't. Because there was one more thing he needed to hear. I leaned forward slightly. My voice quieter now. That girl you've been talking to. He looked at me. Confused. That's me. For a second, he didn't react. Like his brain couldn't process what I just said. Then he shook his head. No. I didn't look away. Yes. That's not possible, he said, his voice sharper now. I picked up my phone. Opened the account. Pulled up the messages. And turned the screen toward him. Read it. His face changed. Not all at once. But piece by piece. Confusion. Recognition. Then something heavier. Something that looked like everything crashing down at the same time. He scrolled. Slowly. Silently. And I watched him realize it. Every message. Every word. Every moment. All of it. Me. When he finally looked up, he didn't look angry. He didn't look defensive. He just looked broken. Like something inside him had shifted in a way he couldn't fix. He shook his head slightly. He stopped. Tried again. I feel like I just cheated on you, with you. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Yeah, I said quietly. Me too. And for the first time since this started, there was nothing left to hide. The silence after that felt heavier than anything we'd said. It just sat there between us, thick and uncomfortable, like the air had changed and neither of us knew how to breathe in it anymore. Brian didn't move for a while. He was still holding my phone, still staring at the screen like it might somehow change if he looked long enough. I didn't rush him. There was nothing left to rush. Everything had already happened. Eventually, he set the phone down on the table, slower than usual, like even that small movement took effort. I didn't know, he said quietly. I know, I replied. And that was the worst part. If he had known if this had been intentional, it would have been easier to label. Easier to be angry. Easier to walk away. But this sat in that uncomfortable space where no one was fully innocent and no one was fully guilty either. He leaned back into the couch, running both hands over his face. I don't even know what to say, he admitted. I nodded. Yeah, same. We sat there for a while after that, not really talking, just existing in the aftermath of something neither of us expected to deal with. Finally, he looked at me again. Why, he asked. Not accusing. Just tired. I took a breath. Because something felt off, I said. And you wouldn't talk to me about it. He looked down. I didn't know how. That doesn't mean you just find someone else to talk to, I said, my voice still calm, even though I could feel everything underneath it. I didn't think it would turn into that, he said quickly. But it did. He didn't argue that. He couldn't. Because we both knew exactly how far it had gone. And you, he asked after a moment. Why didn't you stop it? That question hit differently. Because I had asked myself the same thing more times than I could count. I don't know, I said honestly. At first, I just wanted to see if something was going on. But then, I paused, trying to find the right words. But then I started seeing a version of you I hadn't seen in a long time. He looked up at that. Confused. What do you mean? I held his gaze. You were different with her, I said. You were open. You asked questions. You listened. You actually cared about the conversation. He swallowed. And I don't do that with you? Not like that, I said. It wasn't said to hurt him. It was just true. That truth sat between us for a second. Then he looked away again. I didn't realize it was that bad, he admitted. I didn't either, I said. And that was the part that scared me the most. Because we didn't notice when things started slipping. We didn't notice when we stopped really talking. We didn't notice when comfortable turned into distant. It just happened. Quietly. Over time. I thought we were fine, I added. Me too, he said. But we both knew now that fine didn't mean what we thought it did. That night didn't end with some big decision. No yelling. No dramatic exit. No clear answer. We just went to bed. On the same bed. Facing opposite directions. Closer than strangers. Further than we'd ever been. The next few days were strange. Brian tried. I could see it. He asked me about my day more. Put his phone down when we were talking. Actually listened. And part of me wanted to feel relieved. Like this was the reset we needed. But another part of me couldn't shake the thought that it took all of that for him to start showing up again. And I didn't know what to do with that. We started talking more slowly. Not like before. More careful. More intentional. Almost like we were both afraid of saying the wrong thing and breaking whatever fragile thing we were trying to rebuild. A week later, he brought up therapy. I think we should talk to someone, he said. I didn't argue. Because honestly, I didn't trust either of us to figure this out on our own anymore. So we went. We sat in a small office with soft lighting and neutral walls, across from Sarah Wright, who asked questions in a way that made everything feel both simple and complicated at the same time. She didn't take sides. Didn't label one of us as the problem. She just unpacked things. You both found connection, she said at one point. Just not in the same place. That line stuck with me. Because it was true. He found connection in something new. I found connection in a version of him that I missed. Neither of those things were fake. But they weren't real either. Not in the way they should have been. We're still going. Still talking. Still trying. And I don't know what the ending of this looks like yet. Some days feel hopeful. Like maybe this forced us to see something we were both ignoring. Other days feel off. Like I'm sitting across from him, wondering if he would still choose me if I wasn't already here. If I wasn't already his wife. And that thought doesn't leave easily. Because now I know what he's capable of feeling. What he's capable of saying. What he's capable of choosing when he thinks no one's watching. And I also know what I'm capable of. Creating something that didn't exist. Pushing it further than I should have. Letting it become real enough to hurt both of us. So now we're here. Not broken. Not fixed. Just aware. And I don't know if that's enough. Because part of me thinks we exposed something we needed to face. And part of me thinks we crossed a line we can't come back from. So I guess I'm asking this honestly. If you were in my position, would you try to rebuild after something like this? Or would you walk away knowing it took becoming someone else just to be heard?